Whether you want to make better miters, or if you've got an attorney and want to make segments, MiterSet has a jig that's going to make that a whole bunch easier. And if setup time means anything to you, these jigs just about eliminate that altogether. Both of these jigs are cut from heavy-duty aluminum plate and are anodized to make the surface harder and more wear-resistant. And it has a very accurate miter slot that's machined to accept most common table saw miter gauges. Both of the jigs in this review are available in versions for the Shopsmith Mark V. There's a thick rubber pad bonded to the back of the jigs to make them easier to work with on a table saw surface. First we'll look at the MiterSet Standard that handles angles up to 52.5 degrees. Each of the holes is 5 degrees from the hole before it or after it. And you can alter all of these settings by up to 2.5 degrees using this detent bar. Each of the steps ground into the ends represents half a degree. If you put the blank edge of the detent bar against the base pin, you put the detents on the pin that's by the angle you want to cut. When you move the detent bar to different steps, that changes the angle by a half a degree. Because we have the stepped end of the detent bar on this pin, we're increasing the angle by the amount on the detent. If we go to the highest step on this end of the bar, that gives us a change of 1.5 degrees. That's 2 degrees, and the lowest one gives us 2.5 degrees. If we put the blank end of the detent bar on this end and put the notches on the base pin, we can reduce the angle. And as with the other pin, we have 2.5 degrees available in 1/2 degree steps. When we make a change with the detent bar, we leave that in place against the pins and then move the miter gauge face up against it and lock it down. As simple as that is to do, this is by far the most complicated setup you can make with these tools. Setting your miter gauge has never been quite this easy. And if you don't need to fine-tune the angle, it gets even easier. Just put the pin in the angle you want, loosen up the miter fence, put it up tight against the pins, and lock it down. That really is all there is to it. On the MiterSet segment version, all those numbers indicate how many segments there are in the circle. Put the pin in the hole with the number of segments that you want, and setup is done. Set your miter gauge face against the pins, lock it down, and you're ready to start cutting segments. The best way to screw up any job with miters or segments is to vary the length of the pieces by even a little bit. The only way I know of to make identical pieces is to use some kind of a stop as a gauge. If you've been woodworking for any length of time, you're probably already doing this for other jobs. If you contact the stop and hold the piece firmly in the miter gauge every time, you get pieces that are identical length. You want to take your time doing this to make sure that you're staying safe, of course, but also that you get the exact length that you need. After all of the cuts that I made after setting up using the MiterSet, the only difference we could find in any of the parts was the length, never the angles. I've been using the MiterSet for a few days, so this is where I start showing off a little bit for the video. The 7-segment circle is one of the real pain in the butt jobs to do, so we're going to do that one with the MiterSet because this is all the setup I need to make. And once again, I've got the stop block set up so we get segments that are all the same length. And yes, I'm stopping the saw between cuts to retrieve the pieces because I'm scared. And it doesn't take very long to be smart. Whether you just want to make really accurate miters, or if you want to do segments without yelling and screaming at your equipment, MiterSet makes the tools you need for setting up. And now we'll show you something that makes all this accuracy even more remarkable. I made all the cuts for this video on this contractor saw using a miter gauge from a different manufacturer. Imagine the accuracy we could get in a saw that we don't throw in a pickup truck every now and then.